Call the public hearing meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Brewer. Here. Trustee Carter.
Here.
Trustee Grant.
Here.
Trustee Tate. Trustee Todd. Trustee Todd.
Let the record show that Trustee Todd and Trustee are absent with explanation.
Mr. Mayor, before you get started, you got, it was somebody got to go there. Please use your microphone. Comments from trustees is not included on the agenda.
Okay, well, on the public comment, after that, as we do, if there's any trustee that has a comment, it'll be noted and read at that time. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This hearing will come to order. Let the record reflect that this is a public hearing being held pursuant to the requirements of sections 10 and 20 of the Bond Issue Notification Act of the State of Illinois as amended. Notice of this hearing was published on October 5th, 2018 in the Daily Sauk, a newspaper of general circulation in the village. This is a hearing regarding a plan to issue not to exceed $2.5 million in aggregate principal amount of the village's general obligation bond or alternative revenue source, Series 2018. The proceeds of the bonds will be used to finance the acquisition, construction, installation, and rehabilitation of various capital-related projects, including but not limited to certain road and street improvements within the village's tax increment financing district, number 2 redevelopment project area, and the village's tax increment finance district, number 3 redevelopment project area, or the TIF districts, including in connection with said work, acquisition of all land or rights in land, mechanical, electrical, and other services necessary, useful, or advisable, therefore, and pay certain costs of issuance of the bonds, therefore. The bonds will be issued by the village in accordance with the provisions of Section 15 of the Local Government Debt Reform Act of the State of Illinois as amended, and shall constitute a general obligation of the village payable from increment taxes derived from the TIF districts and such other funds legally available and appropriated therefore, and ad valorem taxes of the village, for which its full faith and credit has been irrevocably pledged, unlimited as a rate or amount. The public hearing is required by the sections 10 and 20 of the Bond Issue Notification Act of the State of Illinois as amended. At the time and place set for the public hearing, residents, taxpayers, and other interested persons will be given an opportunity to express their views for or against the proposed planning of financing, the issuance of the bonds, and the purpose of the issuance of the bonds. At this time, I ask, is there anyone wishing to submit written comments? Is there any residents, taxpayers, or interested persons attending the hearing and desiring an opportunity to express their views for or against the proposed bonds to please stand so that they have the opportunity to make the comments or statements? Make sure you line up, give your name.
Judy Cass.
Oh, you have to turn it on. I'm sorry.
Judy Cass here. Inasmuch as we're having this meeting tonight, is there a feasibility that this could be put on a referendum? So everybody in the village has a right to say whether they want it or not? And if not, why not? I want to know, since we can't pay the bonds we already have, how are we going to pay new ones? Are we going to get slammed with more taxes? And the senior citizens are right at the line where we're saying, hell no. That's it.
Okay, first of all, as was explained before, the bonds will be paid through the TIF, not the taxpayer. The TIF itself will pay the bonds, any costs that are incurred from getting the bonds, anything that has to be done related to the bonds will be paid through the TIF itself. So there's no cost to the residents, there's no levy of taxes, anything like that.
Debbie Williams. I have a few questions, and I hope that we get answers from these questions tonight. Number one, who prepared the ordinance? Was it approved by an attorney? And if so, who and what attorney actually looked at it and approved it? Was it approved by Mary Thompson of Kay McKenna? And what exactly is the $2.5 million to be used for specifically? Is it going to be used for the new gas station that's going to go up? Is it going to be used for roads, electricity, and infrastructure for the new gas station? And you just mentioned that it would be paid by the tip. But if I'm not mistaken, inside the ordinances, it says if there's not sufficient money in the tip, it would fall on the taxpayers.
Where did you see that?
Well, I'm using up my 3 minutes of my time, which I don't think
Okay, no problem.
actually limit.
No problem.
Can't
Where
limit.
did you see that it says that?
Okay. Don't have one in front of me, but look at the verbiage where it says, I think it might even be attached to this public notice. It says, the bond shall be payable from A, the distributive share of incremental taxes derived from the TIF districts. B, such other funds legally available and appropriated therefore. And C, ad valorem taxes of the village for which its full faith and credit have been irrevocably pledged, unlimited as to the rate thereof. Now, does this or does this not mean the taxes from the village will have, meaning us, the taxpayers, will have to supply any additional funds that the TIF itself does not generate? And if I'm wrong, please let me know I'm wrong. Because we need to know if this is going to affect our tax bills. Because seniors are not covered under this type of tax increase. They're senior freeze, this is not applied to. That's not my only questions, Mayor. I have a couple more. And perhaps you can answer all of them at the end. So we really need to know exactly how this $2.5 million is going to be paid back. And if the residents are going to incur any costs to put this gas station in, because we know there's infrastructure, there's roads, there's electricity, there's lighting. We know there's a lot of things that have to be done in order to take that blank space and turn it into a viable business. So most importantly, who prepared the ordinance? Was it approved by an attorney? Was it approved by a mayor and council of Kane County? What specifically will it be used for? How specifically will it get paid back? Is it basically to help finance the gas station? So, and if it's not paid by TIF, will the taxpayers be reliable and stuck with that bill? Because what I understand was that's the case, and if I'm wrong, I sure hope so. And the other thing is, we just got to stop talking.
This is not,
No, it will be in a minute.
okay, but this
Okay,
is
well-
a hearing for the taxes.
And my reason will be quite clear. If you want the residents to know what's going on, to the point where you spend money on a publication talking about finances and the gas station, if this bond is in relation to the gas station, several things are mentioned in here. Why isn't it mentioned that we're about to borrow $2.5 million that may be placed on the backs of the residents? And that's how this ties into the Sauk talk. This is your way of communicating.
Okay, first of all, Ms. Williams, I don't know where the information that you're getting and where you're getting it from, but in no way did I ever, or anyone that explained these bonds at the last meeting that we had and we talked about the bonds, say anything about the gas station. The gas station has nothing to do with these bonds. This $2 million, it said, will not exceed 2.5. But the $2 million that's going to be used is we're rewriting the bonds that already exist, and we're getting it at a lower rate. With the money that we're going to take out, we will fix the streets in TIP 2 and TIP 3. That's what it was explained, but the trustee asked about that, and it said over and over again that the money is going to be used within the TIF district. We can't come across another area and use this money. We can't even use it to fix streets in Sauk Village proper. It stays in the TIF. There's maintenance costs that are rising right now. This is a way for us to get that money without trying to ask the taxpayer to pay it out. The TIF bonds itself that we're trying to refinance will be paid exclusively by the TIF itself. No other money is coming from anything else. It will come, and I state that again, and I'll say it again. No money is coming out of the village's coffers to pay for this. This money will be, this bond and the premiums that are associated with this will come from the TIF. The reason why we're able to get this and actually rewrite this is because now we're in a position now that they being the people that are going to buy this bond, see that the village is on the right track and we are actually generating money. So they looked at it, and believe me, they looked at it for a long time. Because years ago, as you know, we couldn't borrow this. We couldn't even refinance anything. We're able to not only refinance, but at a lower rate. With that being said, we're taking the money out and if somebody would come into you, refinance your house. And if you wanted to refinance your house at a lower rate, and you wanted to pull money out to do something with your house, because they won't let you pay bills, but they won't let you go out and buy a car, because most places won't do that. That's basically what this is doing, allowing us, because at some point in time, the village owns their streets over there, we're going to have to pay to get them done. We're going to have to use whatever we have to use to make that happen. If not, then those owners and those building owners will come after the village and say, okay, this is your street, fixed. We're able to, hopefully, if this goes through, we're able to take that money and do that only in those areas. That's it. I can't come over here and patch anything with that money.
And I appreciate your answers, but it just raised a couple more questions.
Okay.
And I know you don't do rebuttals.
I'm
This is a public hearing.
listening.
So I have a couple, that just raised a couple questions. The gas station was a theory, not a reality. You've cleared that up, and I appreciate that. But you just stated that the taxpayers will not be involved in having to repay this bond. You know, we've been burned before. In the village hall.
Yes, they
when
have.
we took out
Yes,
a bond
it
for
was.
the village
Yes, it
hall.
was.
The taxpayers were not
Yes.
supposed to have to pay
Yes, it
anything
was.
toward that bond.
Yes, it was.
Because we were gonna have all these impact fees that was gonna pay for that bond. What happened, Mayor? You know it.
No, it
just
didn't,
like
and you have,
It
that's
did
what
not
I'm
pay
saying.
for that bond.
Debbie, that's exactly what I was saying, because you're absolutely right. It was told to us that if we do, and if it had been what they were trying to do at that time, the impact fee was supposed to be ongoing, and you're supposed to keep on building, but as you know, things happened and didn't happen, so it falls back. This is different, this is a tip. That was a bond taken out, this is TIF money. So every cost will come from that TIF. Out of that TIF, paid for by that TIF. Right now, we pay the bonds that were created to make that area possible. The DP partners at the time built all the infrastructure, streets, lights, and everything, came back to the village at that time and said, okay, we got everything here, we give it to you, we want our money. Because the village at that time went into agreement and said, okay, if you do this, we'll give you your money. So the village didn't have the money, what did they do? They put a bond together. But it was an agreement that when they put this bond, that bond would be paid for by the TIF. And that bond has been paid for by the TIF. So what we're hopefully, with the gas station, as you say, hopefully we get some more money to go and infuse that TIF so we can continue to make that TIF grow so we can have more money to do other things. I'm just
The
glad
what
we're
if,
able.
the what if,
What
TIF
if
does
the
not
I mean,
have
there's a lot
money.
of ifs, but
what
okay.
if? What
The
if?
lawyers, I'm gonna try to answer your second question. The lawyers saw this, and they signed off on it. And who put this deal together? These gentlemen that are sitting right here, along with, that's Kane McKenna, which is married, and Mr. Charles Durham, and the Nice Miller. They're the ones that came and said, okay, you guys have a great opportunity if you want to do this, to make this happen. It's not often that comes along, but you have a great opportunity to do that because your TIF is doing so well. Because they saw the payments. A lot of TIFs don't have the money to pay it back. We're doing well, and I'm hoping that we continue to do well so that TIF can be funded. And once it is funded, then hopefully we keep going. But no, there's no money in there, I'm sorry, there's nothing the village has to pay, not even the fee for filing, not even the fee for doing it, all that is paid for by the TIF.
That's good information that could have been in the Sauk talk, that would have helped the residents that don't understand TIFs, that don't understand bonds, and that don't understand how this is not going to impact them. What if the gas station decides to leave in 3 years? What if WinPAC just spent all this money to expand here, decides to relocate to another state or somewhere outside
That's
the
true.
village? We will not, just like we didn't get the impact fees when we took the bond out for this building, there's no guarantee that we're going to get the fee, the money from the TIF. So my question is, what if? What if the TIF cannot pay this bond? How long is this bond for?
I'm not pessimistic like that.
Well, I'm not either.
Because-
It was Mayor
I'm
Casey
sorry,
when we
I
built this
mean,
building. Or Mayor
Lincoln Mall closed in
Right.
Madison. They said, what if? What happened? What if they had to lay off half the force? So, but it was something they didn't think was gonna happen. I'm telling you now that money that's for that will come out of that TIF. That TIF has the money in there to pay those payments. So what if, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, what if this or what if that can happen? Yes, there's always a what if. You're absolutely right. There always is a what if. But I'm telling you that right now, that bond will be financed by the TIF.
Okay, but again, I'm gonna leave the podium. You said the taxpayers will never be held responsible to pay back.
As long as that TIF is in existence,
There we go, that's the what if. So if the TIF, not the TIF in existence, if the businesses within the TIF decide to leave Sauk Village
the TIF is funded,
through taxes,
no, the TIF is funded. If the businesses leave, the TIF is still funded.
okay, we're gonna hold you to that. You might not be here when it happens, but that what if may happen, because I'm sure when they built this building, nobody asked what if, and we all got stuck with the bill. But thank you for answering my questions, I appreciate it.
Heidi Parker. I have a real problem with how this was presented to the residents. I don't know who needs the dailies out down here. I know I think and they have it way back in the legal section as an announcement. I don't know who looks back there. Do you? Why was it not on the website on October 5th when it was published in the paper? Why is it still not on the website today? Why is it on the last item on the e-blast and the last item on the e-blast in the e-news? Why is the ordinance not attached to it? Why is it not attached to these minutes? And I believe I saw that the residents will be responsible. Maybe you didn't read it.
Bernadine Hopkins. I'd like to know what does the term, I guess it's aggregate, is that aggregate, or what is that? What does that mean? Aggregate? Could that be the term? I'm trying to find out what this word means. It's in your, it's in this notice, and I happen to want to know what the definition or something is regarding that word. Let me see if I can maybe put it in a sentence, because it goes aggregate principal amount. Now, what do you mean? Does it mean accumulated principal amount? I need to understand what this is saying to me. So that's one of the questions. As a matter of fact, it's line 4. It says here, after identified revenue sources in an, I guess, aggregate principal amount not to exceed. So can you tell me what it means in that? Hello? Do I have to ask you all my questions at once?
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find out what you were talking about.
It's line.
Aggregate principal amount.
Okay, what does that mean?
Somebody like to answer that.
Oh, yes, I'm Charles Durham, Canadian Associates.
Can you use the mic, please?
Mr. Durham? Yes. No, Mr. Durham. Durham?
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Yes, my name is Charles Durham with the firm of Canadian Associates. We are the village's the word aggregate in that context just means total, the total amount. So instead of aggregate, you said the total, and the total amount of 2.5 million, that would essentially mean the same thing.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is, what does varying interest per annum? I mean, it says a gadget. Is that right? Yeah, that's line 5. It's used in line 5. Let me see, it says 2.5 is varying interest per annum. And not to exceed the maximum rate authorized. What's that?
That's the maximum interest rate per year.
Yearly.
Interest rate per year.
Thank you again. All right, now, let me see. Okay, my question is this, Mr. Mayor. If interest is applied at the time bonds will be sold, let's say around now, does anyone know what the present interest rate is now? I would hope that since that's a basis, I'm assuming for what your payment ratio will be. So are you aware of what the interest rate would be? Because generally with things like this, if I'm not mistaken, the interest is paid before the actual principal. So it's kind of important that you know, or we know, what the interest rate would be right now.
Okay, in bonds like this, generally speaking, interest and principal are paid each year at the same time. The interest rate estimated for these bonds would be tonight is Mr. Bob Bell, who's with Wayne Bernardi Security, they're gonna be the underwriters for the bond issue, but
Wait,
the estimated,
wait. Did you say the interest and the principal will be paid simultaneously?
generally speaking, on an annual basis, interest and principal are paid at the same time, each year. The estimated interest rate for these bonds is gonna be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3.5%. So all we're saying with this action is that under those circumstances, will the interest rate exceed 5%? We expect it's gonna be in the neighborhood of 3.5%.
Okay. Again, since I got you, you said you expect. Now, is there any cap, any guarantee that it will not exceed 5.5 or 5 point whatever you just said?
There's gonna be an absolute guarantee it won't exceed 5% because when the village board passes an ordinance which authorizes those funds, it's gonna say the interest rate shall not exceed 5%. If we come back and it's 5.1%, then the village board can reject it.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, I got a lot of questions. This is for the mayor. Can you give any examples of capital-related projects? And that's stated in line 7. And the reason that I say that is because the funds, according to this, the funds are supposed to be utilized in capital-related projects. That is very vague. So what do you mean? Do you mean?
Any projects that's within that 10th district, lights, roads, anything that has to be maintained or taken care of within TIF 2 and TIF 3, any type of project and any funding that's going to be done, that's what that's going to be used for.
That's kind of still not clear because I don't quite know what TIF 2 is allocated for. I don't know what TIF 3 is allocated for.
What do you mean allocated?
Well, what I'm saying is you said anything within those, the various TIFs that you
Do
mentioned.
you know what TIF 2 and TIF 3 are located, first of all?
No, I don't.
TIF 3, do you know where WinPack is located?
Yes.
Okay, that's TIF 3. Do you know where Willie Brothers and Chicago Air Power and Minority Trucking is located? Right across the street going south.
Okay.
That's TIF 2. So between those two parcels is what this money is going to be used for to update and maintain those areas that the village owns.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, I got another definition. What does add, VALOREM, mean? And that's in line 15. Let me see. It says C ad valorem taxes. I don't know what does that mean.
Ad valorem?
Okay, that's fine. But what does it mean?
Well, basically, ad valorem is a Latin term that what it means in this particular case is it's the aggregate or the total property taxes, the total property valuation throughout the village of Sauk Village. The taxes excess on all of the valuation of the properties in Sauk Village. Property taxes.
Property. Thank you. Okay. All right. Line 15 and 16. I'm going to sort of pull it out of there, but faith and credit irrevocably pledge unlimited as to rate or amount. What do you mean? What do you mean by this? By that statement? Irrevocably pledged.
What it means in this context is, should back up just a little bit. First and foremost, what these bonds are proposed to be as a very tax-equal funding system. So primarily what's going to be used, exclusively what's going to be used to pay the bonds is incremental property tax to the It's important that everybody know that the village has had those TIF districts long back in 1988. Over the years, there have already been in place, TIF bonds that are being paid for those property taxes. A couple of things about that is that for all that time, the property taxes from the TIF bond have always been more than sufficient to pay the bond, the debt service on bonds. Secondly, what needs to be recognized is that the city has built up a reserve fund of almost $4 million. And to the extent there's a shortfall in any year of tax increment, there's reserves on hand to take over and pay for the bonds. So that's first and foremost. There's a history of the property taxes being paid by the TIF for the bonds for all these years. That's first. Secondly, there's a reserve fund to pick it up if that doesn't happen. Thirdly, in all the years that TIF funds have been outstanding, the citizens of Sauk Village have never had to pay $1 in property taxes to support those bonds. The TIF has always done that. We are projecting that going forward, that this TIF is going to produce about $5 million a year each year, and that debt service is going to be something like $3.5 million. So there's going to be something like 1.3 to 1.5 coverage of tax increment over debt service. So that's the history of the tax increment bonds in Sauk Village, and that's what we expect to happen in the future. There is an underlying pledge to the TIF funds under state law that says that if the TIF funds does fail, that the village could impose a general tax to put up the debt service of that bonds. Again, that's not going to happen. But again, that's what we expect to happen, given the performance of the TIF funds. We've always had very healthy TIF districts. They've always produced a great deal of money. They've always produced much more money than we see today. And we expect that to continue.
I'm sorry,
Okay. What I understood from the previous meeting was this, that these bonds could be not sold, but basically paid off, where that debt would not be there. May I ask why incur this possibility of throwing the village into a lurch should that TIF fail? Hope not, but should it fail? What I'm saying to you is this: why risk that when you have, and I'm gonna quote you, what did you say, about $4 million? You have access to that. Why not utilize those monies versus creating a debt that could possibly get us in some trouble later on? Well, I don't understand that.
First and foremost, that reserve can only be used to pay debt service on the bonds. It cannot be used to pay for the things we're talking about here. So the reserve funds can only be used to pay the debt service on the bonds to the extent that the tax increment is not sufficient to pay the debt service. So far as I mentioned, there's always been there to pay in. In the event there's a shortfall, those reserves are there to protect the village against going to general obligations so that the taxpayers will not have to pay. Those funds cannot be used for these public improvements. The reasons to do the public improvements, the mayor and the development director probably explain this as well as I can, is that the streets and the infrastructure that are there for 1 or 2 years. There's deterioration, there's a need of repair. There are some very wealthy companies there. Companies that have brought tax revenues to the village, that brought jobs to the village. If the infrastructure is not kept up with the industrial park, there is a danger that those companies could become dissatisfied and not be able to stay in the industrial park in the village. So the idea to have the infrastructure is to support the businesses there, so they will remain in the village, continue to pay property taxes, and have those jobs in the village.
Okay, I understood what you said. And what bothers me about that is that I assume that the businesses were coming as a benefit to the community, not something that we would possibly be burdened with, meaning that should they not be satisfied, they may leave and roll to Sauk Village. That is not what I had believed the businesses coming was about. The other thing is that I'm assuming that the businesses that are coming are contributing something to the, what do you call it, the building or whatever. So I don't quite get what you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm in confusion.
Yeah.
The businesses that are there because Sauk Village is making it. But Sauk Village is up against some stark competition when it comes to Will County, Indiana, etc. What the tax and finance system does is provide the village with a tool, with resources to attract those businesses into Sauk Village, so that they stay in Sauk Village, they're supposed to win those opportunities. The beautiful thing about tax and financing is that once those companies come, they pay property taxes. Those property taxes become income revenues, and so those property taxes that generate from the business are the very tax increments that's being used to pay for the public improvements. So in that respect, the businesses are paying for themselves. The improvements are self-supported. The businesses are self-supported with respect to these improvements going in. The problem with not maintaining the streets, the water, the sewer infrastructure within any industrial park, not just Sauk Village, is that poor conditions within an industrial park could put pressure on Sauk Village to continue to compete against Will County, Indiana, etc. So the TIF allows Sauk Village to play on an even playing field so that it can compete for those businesses, get those businesses here, and make sure they stay here. And that's what this proposed bond issue is supposed to do, is to put in improvements to make sure that they stay in a position to manage those industrial parks and continue to be a good thing for the village.
Okay, the next question is this. What is the bond service fee? What is the bond service fee? I wasn't clear about what that is, how that goes, because I thought it was some percentage of the cost of the bond or the sale of the bond, I'm not sure. But what is the bond service fee?
A bond service.
No, how much? How much?
Okay. I'm not sure about a bond service fee. There are costs, there are expenses to the village to issue the bonds. We generally refer to those as cost of issuance. So in this case, we estimate that the cost of issuance are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $62,000 to $80,000.
One time or?
One time, and the proceeds of the bonds are going to be used to pay those fees. So once again, the bonds are self-supporting, they're going to pay for themselves with respect to those expenses.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
One of the questions that I have, you just said that this generates funding. That funding that it is generating cannot be touched, is that correct? And if so, who touches it?
Let me be clear. The funding that's being created is called tax increment financing.
It's called what?
Tax increment financing.
Okay.
Tax increment financing is essentially the property taxes being paid by the businesses until 2 and 3. Those property taxes are captured by the county and transferred to the village, and the village is able to use those property taxes to pay for improvements in the industrial park. So when I say funds being generated, I'm talking about the tax increment being paid by the businesses through their property taxes. The money that can't be touched on referred to also derived from the property taxes. Over the years, to protect the village, there's been a reserve fund built up. And that reserve fund is about $4 million. The reserve fund is set into a separate fund, and is set there as part of an agreement between the bondholders and the village as additional security to pay for the debt service in case there's a shortfall in terms of the TIF revenues, which there have never been. So those, when I say it can't be touched, it can be touched in the sense that it can be used for paying debt service on the bonds, but otherwise it stays there as an insurance policy to the village, so that that's an extra protection, which means that it will not ever be placed upon the taxpayers of the village.
Okay, I'm not sure if I understand this correctly, and I may be wording it incorrectly, but when I'm saying you cannot touch that money, we know in the past there has been a borrowing from the TIF fund, which is not right, and it had to be paid back. That has happened. So now we have this large amount of money that's going to be sitting there. That money cannot be touched, if I understand you correctly. And there's also a little term that I'm not sure,
Operational transfer.
operational expenses. Transfer. That word, operational transfers, we've heard it thrown around numerous times here. We've never gotten a direct answer what that term means. And when they were throwing this term out, it was said that operational transfers do not have to be paid back. So that makes me nervous that this money is sitting there, and if somebody wanted to borrow from that as an operational transfer, is that legal? How can they or could they?
I'm not sure what operational transfer is.
Nobody else is either. That's what they've been telling us. The operational transfers do not have to be paid back.
Okay, let me take one shot at this. I know through the TIF funds in this center, there are certain operation expenses by the village that the village is able to charge to the tax increment to help pay for village expenses related to the operation of the TIF funds. So the TIF has to pay the village the cost of those operations. When that money is paid by the TIF fund to the village to reimburse it for its operational expenses, for running the TIF funds or the TIF districts, the village does not have to pay that money back to the TIF. That money goes into the general fund to help pay for the operations of the village with respect to the village's expenses for the TIF district.
And who monitors that?
Is that the operation you mean?
We don't know what that term means, so that's why operational transfers,
Okay, I don't want to use the word operational transfer because I'm not sure what that means.
The money that you're talking about, as far as coming from the TIF, is administrative costs that we pull down each and every year that's given to us for our administrative costs, which would be police, fire, public works, anything that has to, that deals with the TIF, we draw down from that's given to us by the TIF trustees. And that's a set amount, and that's given every year, and that's what that's used for. That's the only thing that that's used for. It's the only money we can take out of there. And that money is budgeted, it's in the budget each and every year for that amount. Right now, it's $250,000. So that $250,000 that comes out of the TIF for administrative costs goes to pay for public works, for police, for fire, for answer, anything that's doing work in that TIF, and even administrative costs as far as things that are being taken care of, billing and things of that nature. All that's being taken care of, and that money is used to pay those expenses. That's the administrative drawdown that's done every year. Operational transfers, and it's been explained, but those are operational transfers are things that are taken out of each and every person's budget. Every department has a budget. So that money is transferred out of their budget into the general fund. Basically, it's just paper. There's numbers taken out to be paid from that particular line item from that particular department, and it's added into the general fund to pay those expenses coming from each and every different department. So that's what the transfer, the word transfer, and I know everyone was talking about transfer, but basically all it is you have to have a place to pull the money from. We just don't pull money out the air, so we have to have a place that the money's there. Each and every department head at budget time has a budget. You have to take the money some kind of way. You just don't take it down. We have to show that we took X amount of money out of this particular person's budget and credit or debit that particular budget, and that's what that money is being transferred out of their budget into the general fund, basically number-wise. It's not, we don't come and take $1 and put it in someone's pocket, no, that's done for paperwork. You have to show something. This is something that the auditors, which makes sense, you got to know where the money came from.
And who's watching that money? Who monitors the TIF money and who
The TIF
reports?
The TIF money is monitored by the TIF trustees. You have a TIF trustee. Our TIF trustees are not many bank.
And do we get a report of
Yes,
that
we
so
do.
we can monitor?
Yes, we do. You get a report every quarter.
Okay. So nobody can borrow that money from the TIF?
I didn't say that.
That's what I'm asking.
I
Can
didn't
money
say-
be
I didn't say
borrowed?
nobody can borrow. I said, if you asked me was the money monitored, yes it is.
I'm asking, can money be borrowed from that TIF?
It has, anything that's taken out of the TIF has to be voted on.
It wasn't last time.
Okay, that was your,
As long as the money cannot be borrowed from that TIF,
I didn't say that. Again, I did not say the money cannot be borrowed, ma'am. I said any money that's
so
comes
you can
out,
borrow from a TIF.
any money that comes out of the TIF has to be voted on. Any money, like tonight, we have a accounts payable, we have to vote on that. It has to be voted on. I just can't go up there and take money, it has to be voted on.
I will say that money can be borrowed from the TIF. To the extent money is borrowed from the TIF, it must be used within the TIF for the type of improvements we're talking about tonight. So money can be borrowed from the TIF, the money has to go back into the TIF for those improvements within the TIF, except for some of the expenses we just talked about.
That's great, as long as it is done that way. But we know that there has been money borrowed from a TIF that wasn't used that way.
Was that money paid back?
Did you pay it back?
Did I pay it? I didn't take anything. I didn't
Was
take
it paid
anything.
back?
If I took something right now, I would
Someone
be-
borrowed from the TIF.
I'm trying to tell you, you're saying, you're making an accusation.
I want to know, was it paid back?
There's,
It was paid back, that's all.
you can ask the board, was the money voted? That's why I'm taking it. Anybody that, any trustee have any questions?
I have a couple of questions and a comment.
Please use your mic.
Now, I'm asking questions because I don't know, TIF is a difficult subject for anybody
Pull the
to
mic up, we
understand.
still can't hear you back here.
I'm asking questions because I don't understand. It's a difficult subject for anybody to understand. So maybe you can clear up some of the questions that I might have about TIF 2 and 3. Now, it's my understanding that the money that we had at one point is budgeted for, the $1.1 million is budget for TIF 2, is budget for TIF 2. But that money is being transferred over to TIF 3 so they can make debt services. So can you explain to me how you have enough money of 1.1 million that's budgeted, say budget, so they don't think we had that money yet, and it's going to be transferred over to TIF 3 so they can make debt service payments?
Okay, let me try to explain it this way. When the TIFs were formed, it was the intent of the village board at that time that those two TIF districts would interact and work together. Under state law, any municipalities that have TIF districts that are next to each other, contiguous to each other, may utilize TIFs from one TIF to the other TIF to help out both TIFs. Essentially, that's what's going on in Sauk Village. It is the resources of TIF 2 and 3 being joined together to raise money to put in improvements and to attract businesses into TIFs is the way it's being used in Sauk Village.
Now with TIF 3, according to what's in the budget and what we have been talking about over the last 2 years, is that they didn't have any, little or no development for, that area. So in the early 90s and 2000, so, and made a, a crisis, money crisis then. So it was hard for us to pay the debt, back then. So now, you're saying that we're gonna get about $5 million to, pay this debt service. Well, the total amount of all the, bonds is about $5 million. So we're gonna use everything that we got from 2 and 3 to pay off all these bonds. Is that what we're gonna do?
Well, first let me clarify something. Sauk Village TIF districts have always done very well. The TIF districts, when they first got started off very well. There were, you had Pay Center coming in, you had Wayne Steel coming in. You got to a very strong start. Even after DP Gardens came in and started developing, we got to a very strong start. Something like 500,000 square feet of industrial space being built. When the Great Recession hit, it is true that there was pretty much a standstill of any additional development in the TIF district, probably from a period of something like 2008 through something like 2014. That wasn't just true of Sauk Village, that was true everywhere. The Great Recession hit. Even in that tough spot, the TIF district still generated more than enough money to pay debt service on the bonds and something. So there's never been a failure by the village's TIF districts to pay debt service on the bonds that is outstanding, not even close. So you've never come close to paying your obligations out of the TIF districts. Since 2014 and the WinPac and other businesses came in, there's been pretty much a boom in TIF 3 in particular, when you've seen a steady growth in the equalized asset valuation of those TIF districts. They've grown from something like a combination of, I would say, probably together about 20 million, maybe in 2013, all the way up to now where they're about 33 to 35 million equalized asset valuation. That's why we estimate that they're going to generate something like $5 million in revenue. So we are projecting that there's going to be continuing much more increment generated that's going to be required to pay the debt service. And that's why with the clear conscience, we could recommend to this board that you issue the bond.
Okay, can you tell me who reviewed and approved this? I mean, what attorney reviewed or anything? And who reviewed it from K. McKinney?
Okay, well, first of all, very quick, K. McKinney is not a law firm, we're a bank development consultant.
I understand.
The village has been working with a very respected bond counsel firm called Ice Miller. Ice Miller is the firm that put together all of the legal documents. They are the ones that have reviewed all the legal documents. We review it just for some technical aspects, other with respect to tax increment, with respect to this item hearing, with respect to the local board, Ice Miller determines that all the documents, and they're the ones that's guaranteed the village that the documents are properly done.
You said the attorneys did you say?
Ice Miller, which is a law firm,
Okay, they're the law firm.
they are the ones that do the
You mentioned earlier that the fees, I'm going to call them fees, we get about 62 to 80,000 for this service that you're going to give us. But it would have been nice to know that this was happening before we had public hearings. It seems like this is a little backwards where residents are just not asking questions about this when this is a done deal. It has been approved by the majority of the trustees, we did. Residents did not have input to this, and they're just not getting input from it today. So I think it's a little backwards. So I'm sort of concerned. Well, if we do this again, but things like that should be done first, and then maybe you guys should, because you're supposed to put input to the residents, where we are, you know, and we should let you have input too, but,
Yeah, there's something very, very, very important to point out here. Nothing's been done. The village board has not approved this bond issue. Under state law, and this is the process we're going through. This public hearing is being held so that the public can provide you with their comments and their opinion, their views on whether or not you should do this bond issue. It's only after this public hearing is completed and after a certain period of time expires that the village board can even consider whether or not you're going to do this bond issue. Before you can do this bond issue, we have to come back before you with documents, additional documents prepared by Ice Miller, which will be the documents that you will consider, which you either pass or not pass with respect to whether or not you're going to do this bond issue. Again, this public hearing does not implement this bond issue. All of the discussions we had previously does not issue this bond issue just because this is the bill coming before you and we make a proposal to you that we think that the bonds are a good deal for the village. Does not mean that the village board has to accept it. The village board has to be convinced that the bonds are something that are in the best interest of the village before you pass an ordinance to approve it. That will not be placed before you for at least another couple of weeks after ordinance. So tonight is not an action to pass the bonds.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. We didn't, the ordinance was not passed for this,
There was no ordinance created.
There was a resolution passed
Resolution.
setting this public hearing. But the set of this public hearing is not to approve of the bonds. It's for discussion, so you can.
This is discussion, right, I still think it should be
The
done.
action before was just to set this public hearing.
Right, oh, okay, I still think it should be done, okay, that's my opinion. Yeah. But, for the 202 series, we have been out there, we have been asking for the history of what's been going on with the 202 series bonds. For some reason, we can't get that information. And I think it would be good for us, not only the trustees and the residents too, to know what's been going on for the last 2 years with the 202 series bonds. And we haven't been able to get that information before, so I would like, I understand what, you're told, but we need to get our information from us. What's been going on, what's going on, huh?
The 2002 bonds were issued in 2002. The 2002 bonds were used to refund some 1994 bonds, which were issued by the village to buy land in TIF number 3. So the $10 million bonds were issued in 1994. Those were taxable bonds. In 2002, the village board issued additional bonds to refund those 1994 bonds were tax exempt bonds, so that the village could achieve a lower interest rate to lower the debt service on those bonds, to make it more affordable in the future. So the 2002 bonds were issued for that purpose.
So you'll be able to give us that itemized information on it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all we need to take a look at it, and it will be helpful, we kind of make an informed decision about what's going on with a $2.5 million investment, up to a $2.5 million
This is
investment.
the 2.5 million bonds, if you issue, will be the 2018 bonds.
But still, we need the itemized information.
So there's
so
the
we
2018 A bond, which is the 2.5 million bond.
Yeah,
We're also proposing that you consider the 2018 B bond, which would be a refunding of the 2002 A bonds that are going to be issued for the same purpose, which would be to lower the interest on the 2002 bond to make the debt service less to create a savings for the village.
well, I understand what you said about savings. We might save something, but longtime residents, and they have a lot longer than I have, they have been burned 2 or 3 times with this bond issue stuff. So it was before my time, but the thing is now, we're winding up, we're gonna refinance up to $2.5 million, you know, and they're gonna get the tips all straightened up and get additional infrastructure repairs and all that sort of stuff. And in the budget, it says that we had a crisis in the early 90s and 2000, and there really hasn't been any improvements during that for that tip. So that's why we're sort of skeptical if you follow my mind, because the money's not there, the development is not there, and yet you want us to put $2.5 million into something in hopes that we get it. I'm just saying, I'll be skeptical about that one.
I understand the concerns, but I'll stand behind this. The TIF districts have always produced money, even during those hard years, even during the Great Recession, when there was no development going on. The businesses that were there continued to pay their property taxes. That went into the TIF fund to the trustee. And those funds have always been used to pay the debt service on those bonds. There has never been any default on any TIF bonds that the village is outstanding, not even close.
And another thing I want to add to this, that times have changed. Businesses leave, they stay in business 2 or 3 years and they're gone. I don't know if this is going to be the case, but you got to think about, you know, are they going to be here for the long run or are they going to be? That's a huge investment. That's about $17 or $18 more a month, and we can't, most of us can't afford that. But I'm just saying, you know, there's no kind of guarantees that we can get, and not with this kind of issue. And you got to understand, we're skeptical about, you know, putting out that kind of money for something that may not pan out. Or either paying out and it'll be, you know.
I understand that there's been some difficult bond issues
Yeah.
with the village, and that's damaged the trust. But none of those have related to the TIF funds, with respect to that. Also, you know, I really have to just reemphasize that the TIFs have always overperformed. The TIF have always paid the debt service on that. The trust that you can have is that the businesses that have been in the TIF district, particularly TIF 2, have been there for over 20 years. The TIF 3 have been there for 10 to 15 years. So there's some level of confidence in that. There's some level of confidence in the fact that even during the Great Recession, when many businesses were going, those businesses stayed in Sauk Village and continue to operate. There hasn't been bad economic times like that since the Great Depression, yet those tips fell out. So there's no guarantee in the future, but I think there's a certain level of trust that goes with that kind of school.
I'm still skeptical, but okay.
Any other questions from the other trustees? Okay, this concludes the public hearing regarding the plan to issue not to exceed 2.5 in aggregate trustable amount. Let the record show that this meeting, that this hearing was concluded at 8:03 p.m., October 23rd. I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
It's moved by trustee Grant, second by trustee Carter. Any questions? Motion carried, we are adjourned. We're gonna go right into, thank you guys very much. Yeah, okay. 3 minutes and we're gonna go into the regular board meeting.
Shut that off.
No, it's only 3 minutes, so she might.
Stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Brewer?
Here.
Trustee Carter?
Here.
Trustee Grant?
Here.
Trustee Tate? Trustee Todd? Trustee Zupan?
Item number 4, approval of minutes. First, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes for the board meeting of July 10th, 2018. Are there any corrections before that motion is made? Yes, we got-
You ready? Oh, okay, you did not, that's why I'm saying that. Okay, and, I'm sorry, you said July 10th?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not on July 10th yet.
Okay, there's
This
no,
goes to review.
I'll, accept the motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Okay, it was motioned by trustee Carter, first, and then, second by, and that is the second, correct, trustee Brewer?
That's fine, yeah.
Trustee Brewer, second. Any questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Trustee Carter?
Yes.
Trustee Grant?
Yes.
Trustee Tate?
No.
Trustee Todd? Trustee Zupan?
Motion is carried. On the minutes for October 9, 2018, are there any corrections or comments?
I have some comments. For October 9th, I requested that the comments be added to the minutes for October 9th. They weren't. I also asked that the removal of the 3 vendors, and it was not even addressed in the minutes for October 9th. So, like that referred to in the minutes, and also, for, on page 5, for under public service, the mayor indicated that, he, gave me some information, and he said that information was responded to, and I, of course, responded to him and said no information was provided, and that was not included in the comments for October 9th.
Anything else?
That's all for October 9th.
Okay, so you're basically stating that what you had asked for was not, is that what you're saying?
Nope, it wasn't
It
included.
wasn't included? Okay.
Yes.
Is that all 3 items?
3 vendors, yes, that I talked about.
3 items that you said, that they weren't included, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak to the minutes, please?
Sure.
According to Robert Rules of Order and Parliamentary Procedures, minutes are supposed to have the following. They're supposed to state the date of the meeting, the location of the meeting, and action items. They are not supposed to be verbatim, However, I do make every attempt, as I know the trustees like things for the record, and typically I include as much as I can. Trustee Brewer talked with me explicitly about having the items. And if she was to look under new business, when we talked about approving accounts payable, then she would see written there under comments and questions the items that she asked to be removed from accounts payable. It is the 3 items that was asked to be removed. You asked for LAP to be removed, Kane McKenna to be removed, and Dr. Strader. And it's there in black and white, trustee.
So where's the actual comment that I gave, the comment I wrote up?
Trustee, I am not going to ever type what people say verbatim. That's what I just said. I provided a summary, and in providing that summary, and I hope not to offend anyone, as I say what I'm getting ready to say, if I do not itemize, then when someone comes around 10 years from now and they want to know the business that took place, if I was to give a verbatim description, they wouldn't know what the heck I was talking about, and my name is signed to it, and so they would think that I am the one to do it. Now, it says, Trustee Brewer asked to remove from accounts payable the following. Point 1, the 4 invoices of Dr. Strader. Point 2, the salary for Judy Suckman, as her employment and appointment had not been approved by the board. Hudson Lab, Kane and McKenna. Those are the things that you asked to remove. I am never, ever, hear that, going to say everything that you say when you talk. There's no way that it will be able to be comprehended, and a lot of it is redundant. So I think to word it the way I did, the major point that you made, you wanted those items off of accounts payable. You asked for it to be in the record, it's there. That was the premise of what you wanted. You wanted them off. I'm finished.
Thank you for that information, Village Clerk, but I also asked for my comments, my written comments that I gave to be added to the minutes. And I want the written comments that I gave to be added to the minutes. I wrote it to be put in the minutes.
Where are the written comments?
I sent you a copy of the minutes, and also after I was sworn in by the mayor, I sent them a copy too.
Okay. Your point was taken, the clerk heard what you had. We're not gonna go keep going back to Vegas. I mean, excuse me? I said your point was heard. The clerk heard exactly what you said, and she responded to what you said. But we're not gonna keep going back and forth. Everybody heard exactly what it is that you said that should be in there. So to keep going back and forth is not proactive right now. So, and then anybody else has any other comments on these minutes that were dated October 9th? Any other trustee have any other comments?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I have the floor, and
The floor.
I have a question.
Okay, but I'm saying we talked back and forth about this just now. If there's anything else in the minutes that you have a question about?
I want to know why my comments was not
It was
attached to
just
the
explained,
minutes.
it was just explained to you by the clerk.
And I want to know why the comments are not attached to the minutes.
May I just say one more thing? No, please.
No, we're not.
They will be attached.
We're not
That's
going.
all you would thank you. I appreciate it.
To the certified copies, just like everybody else's.
There you go.
They'll be attached in the file.
Anything, okay, I'll entertain a motion for the meeting minutes, October 9th, 2018. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Grant, second by trustee Carter. Any questions?
You didn't put corrections.
I didn't make the motion. If they wanted to make the correction, the trustee that made the motion would have said it was necessary correction. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Brewer,
No.
trustee Carter. Yes. Trustee Grant,
Yes.
trustee Tate.
Motion is carried. Are there any questions in regards to the whole meeting minutes dated October 16, 2018? Are there any questions on those minutes?
On page 1, dated October 16th, I do believe on page 1, it should be 221st Street. It has 225th Street. See it, the first one says area around 221st. It's the area around 221st too. That's.
I'm at, is that what your question is? Is that a question or what is that?
That was,
You say
should be
that-
changed to,
Oh, okay. What should be changed?
it should be 221st, the area around, it's not the area around 225th, it's the area around 221st.
Okay.
Okay, also on page 3, Mr. Williams made comments relating to the truck stop restrictions. But as you go and read what he's saying on page 3, in his last comment, it says, Mr. Williams, he refers to, I think that should be referred to as a person, and they would buy water from the village. Who is we? And you said, he stated we needed commerce in town. Who is he?
It's Mr. Williams' comment, right?
It seems like that should have been, he was responding to something Mr. Williams was saying. He informed the trustees during the process.
And any other comments, any other questions on these minutes?
I just like to know, is it, what he's intended, who is he, and, what is this referring to? Who is he? Who is the person he's referring to?
Who is Mr. Williams? Excuse me, we're not going to do that. Excuse me, we're not going to blurt out names. I appreciate that, thank you.
In the second line, it says, he informed the trustees during the process. Who is he? He stated we needed commerce in the town. Who is he? It sounds like he's talking about somebody or he's responding to something. I'm not quite sure what that means. You understand?
So that would be with the corrections you can make.
Are there any other comments on the minutes? Please state the motion. I'll entertain the motion.
A motion to approve it with corrections.
So moved. Let me second, I'm sorry. Apologize.
Moved by trustee Brewer that the motion, that the minutes be approved with the necessary corrections that were just mentioned, and second by trustee Grant. Any other questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Grant,
Yes.
trustee Tate,
Yes.
trustee Todd, trustee Zupan, trustee Brewer,
Yes.
trustee Carter.
Motion is carried. Public comment? All questions and comments must be directed to the mayor. Each speaker may comment on any matter pertaining to business of Sauk Village. Each speaker is allowed one opportunity to speak for 3 minutes, and they are engaged in debate, counter replies, rebuttals, person. Please state your name.
Mary Escobedo. I'm here again to talk about social media, because obviously you're not doing nothing. You're not paying attention to the residents that you should be, because they elected you to look out for them, which you're not doing. Neither are your 4 bobbleheads. Yeah, I do.
I thought we said we were
Yeah.
going to go, we're not going to go.
Okay.
Personal. Because I'm, excuse me, just.
Bobbleheads, yes,
Excuse me.
okay. Now, so I'm gonna continue talking because you're talking on my 3 minutes.
Okay, well, you're.
And I'm talking about social media. And you let your goons go out there on social media and write about the residents, but it's not okay for the residents to stand up here and tell you about it.
Your 3 minutes is going to stop. We're going to start back over to 3 minutes. As I stated before, if you're going to come up to the mic.
Okay, do my 3 minutes start now? Because you
No.
want to debate, and you said no
I'm not-
debating.
I'm-
No going back and forth. So why are you going back and forth? Let me get my 3 minutes so I can go. I have a curfew. I gotta go.
Okay, well, first of all,
But he,
you
but
will
still, why
not,
is he going back and forth? He said no
you
going
will
back and
not
forth, no
step
debate.
up to the
So
mic
let's not debate
and be
and go
belligerent.
back and forth.
If you are, if you don't,
Okay.
if you don't want to
I
abide
don't
by
want to
that,
hear
if
you
you
talk.
don't want to abide by that, please leave the mic. I will ask you only twice to leave the
Okay,
mic.
can you start my 3 minutes?
So you weren't listening, you were talking. I said your minutes don't start until after I get you trying to explain.
Nothing you say is true, so I want to hear it.
If you continue to be belligerent and talk.
I'm not
about-
belligerent. You need
talk
to
about and
Google
call
it.
a person
Google it.
name, I will ask you to leave the mic. If you call a person a name or you're trying to.
I didn't call a person a name.
Yes, you did.
Who did I call a name?
If you.
Who did I call a name? See?
Because you obviously, you don't want to listen.
That's what I just said. What you say is a lie, so I'm not going to listen. Mary Escobedo, I'm here to talk about social media. As I said, you were given an ordinance and you're not following it. Joe Wizawati should have been dismissed. He should be gone because he's out there still continuing to do all that silly stuff that he does along with your wife and your daughter. Your daughter has called me and my daughter so many MFers, I'm not sure which MFer I am anymore. So again, you need to do something about it, and I will be here every week to talk about it until you do something. And you can sit there and look at me with that dumb look, but still, you are supposed to be the leader, and you are not the leader. You are being led by Joe Wizawati and your wife, who are sitting up here doing what, telling you what to do. And obviously, you're not right. You're not a leader. You should not be doing, you should not be the mayor because you're not a leader.
Please leave the mic. Thank you.
Forget you all. You too. Your mama. Your mama.
Please come up.
That's the way the mayor's wife talks. Along with his daughter. Exactly.
Please, yes, ma'am. State your name.
Kathy Betcher. About 2 weeks ago, I came up with the village hall.
Hold on a minute, I can't hear you.
About 2 weeks ago. Kathy Betcher. About 2 weeks ago, I came up to the village hall and I was looking to talk to somebody about their home on 21st, where they were evicted.
Use the mic, please.
They were evicted and all this crap, excuse me, is out on the lawn. I could not find anybody to talk to except for Joe. And nothing has been done. There is stuff that
strewn all over the front of the house. It's not only an eyesore, it's an outlander. There are critters burrowing in there that I've seen going in there. Then the kids are in there picking through this stuff. That's dangerous. It needs to be addressed. We should be able to clean it up and then charge the owner for debris elimination, whatever. But that needs to get off the street. We want this village to thrive, not when it looks like that. That's terrible. Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yep.
you said 221st, do you have an address?
It's like 19 something, it's like 221st and Clyde.
221st and who?
Clyde,
It runs in,
it's right on the end.
Okay, and you said as of today it's still as, it's
Oh,
still,
dude.
okay, I just asked, okay, thank you.
It's a mess.
Okay.
Oh, it's scary. See it?
Any Parker, did I understand you say that there was no ordinance passed on the bank, on the bonds?
No, there isn't. We haven't voted on anything else now.
It was passed on the 25th of September.
I'm sorry.
It was voted on the 25th of September. There's a copy here, although it does not say the date, the exact date. It says the 25th of 2/18. It's ordinance number 18015.
Was that a notification or was that an ordinance?
It's an ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds. And it was voted on. And it has a number. 18015. And it was approved by everyone but trustee Hoover. And I would like to ask you again to take down the Sauk Village, Illinois page. It's not official, it needs to go.
Okay.
I asked to pass out some pictures. Can you spot the similarities between the Sauk Village official website homepage and the Sauk Village Illinois Facebook page listed as a homepage while Googling Sauk Village? To the average observer, it would appear that both pages are official pages of Sauk Village news and information. That is not true. Sauk Village Illinois Facebook page was the creation of a current employee of Sauk Village who for years provided slanderous and unfounded comments about past elected officials and residents. I have absolutely no problem with anyone utilizing the First Amendment right to free speech. My problem is that they should not use the name of our village logo, backdrop of our village buildings, and claim that it is the Facebook home to Sauk Village. I have requested that this page be removed several times in the past 5 years. Mayor Burgess said he can't do anything about it. Well, why would he? Look at the free press and the exposure he gets from that page. Now we have a Sauk Talk. After 1.5 years, it seems very personal and political. Where is the information from the clerk, the other trustees, and the department heads? Apparently, they found out about the Sauk Talk at the same time we did. As we head into yet another political season, I implore Mayor Burgess to take down this page. Keep our village residents' resources as informative as possible while being inclusionary for all residents. Updates are awesome and highly encouraged. Sauk Village residents have a right to know what is happening in our community. We actually do love private progress. With that being said, for months I have mentioned that the official website has not been updated for over a year. Mayor Burgess stated last week that it's a work in progress. I'm not really interested in the web design, but rather the information that has traditionally been placed on the site for public knowledge and is readily available for us, such as board meeting minutes, ordinances, accounts payable, and collections.
1 minute.
Again, Mayor Burgess, I'm asking as respectfully as I am possible, please remove the Sauk Village, Illinois Facebook page. This is within your power, whether you care to exercise that power. The people who write this page have many other fake names where they can post fake news. But I would like to thank you for answering the questions during the public hearing and allowing ample time for questions and answers that have been provided for clarity for the taxpayers who are unfamiliar with TIF and bonds. It really is possible to work together for the good of the residents. We need to break the chain that has plagued our village for way too long. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? Respectfully, Deputy Williams, former village clerk.
In regards to the Sauk Talk, it will be issued every quarter. So if you have something that you feel that you would like to be in there, and then also the trustees, department heads will be given, this is the first one, just trying to get something out there, but ongoing, it'll be out there, it'll be on the website, and also emailed to those that signed up for the Sauk Talk. I just looked at, and this is going back to the question before to Ms. Parker. I just looked at this, and it said, according to ordinance 18-15 adopted, that ordinance, it says the village intends to issue alternative bonds. It was not, this is according to a ordinance that's been in the books since 2015 about bonds. We intended, and that's what this was, we intend to issue alternative bonds, being general obligation bonds. And it was not an ordinance that was passed for that reason. It was just in reference to that we are having these bonds and this hearing that we just had for, I'm sorry.
Why are there signatures on there of people that voted that day?
I don't know why, okay, ma'am, I thought I would try to explain it to you, but, okay, I'm not gonna go back and forth. But it was intended, and that's what we were talking about. But if you want, after the meeting, I can give you more detailed information about that. Well, she told me that I was supposed to have, hearing, which I have said, I will listen to every comment and respond at the end, and I did go off track on that. I'm sorry, but, yes, ma'am.
Bernadine Hopkins. I wanted to know, this is regarding those minutes. I hope I'm not out of order, but when Trustee Brewer asked that Dr. Strader and some others be, her comment regarding them be, added to the minutes or taken away? I can't say I really understood that, and where I'm going with this is this. If she had Dr. Strader or whoever removed, what exactly does that mean? What is the result of that? Were they removed from accounts payable, or what was that about? The other thing I wanted to ask you was this. Regarding the hearing that you just had, the area where the public comment was, it sort of eluded that we could only speak one time and so on and so forth. And is that the way a hearing is conducted? I understand you could conduct the village hall meetings that way, but a hearing, shouldn't the public be allowed to ask as many questions as they would like? And I also would like to know, why is Dr. Strader still being paid about $1,400 a week? So that's it.
I'd like to ask again, after many weeks, do we know how many fire hydrants are not working in the village? This affects all the residents. It could affect your insurance if we find out that fire hydrants are not properly working. So could we ever get an answer for that?
Judy Caster, I have some questions that I ask approximately every week. Some of them haven't been answered, so I'm going to continue asking them. I asked about an audit because you got rid of the financial director. And it's already been going around that money is not as it should be. Therefore, I think an independent audit is acceptable when you get rid of somebody, to make certain that everything's on the up and up, so that in a couple months from now, you don't go back to him and say, obviously you took it. So I would like to know why an independent audit isn't set up. Calling the village hall. I don't know about anybody else, but as I get older, I get madder when you call someplace over and over and over again, and you get a recording thanking you for calling the village of Sauk. We are not the village of Sauk. We are the village of Sauk Village. And I don't understand, with new help in the front, why phones don't get answered properly and in a timely manner. I also had asked about operational transfers, and since it was discussed and you had a trustee, as well as the at the time treasurer, indicating that this was indeed a usable practice. I want to know if it's being used, and when and what date did our attorneys say it is okay to do that. I also have asked about the police furniture. I was told that you, Derek, as well as the chief, had a talk, and we're going to continue the talk. And then when I was told by you that the chief was supposed to make a list. Has that list been done?
Yes, it has, and it was given to Kevin Waller. Thank you for asking again.
And the hiring of new police. We seem to be able to come up with funds for a whole lot of stuff, but we never seem to come up with enough money for the 3 police officers that are already in the budget. Our police eligibility list is going to be extinct in the early part of 2019. It takes a lot to get that thing back in order, and it is a law that that be there. What are we going to do about it? Did you say time?
I said time.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Move now to the one that asked about the not paying of Dr. Strother and Ms. Sussman. That is in the accounts payable. Accounts payable is voted in. Any trustee can make their decision, make their comment on accounts payable. If they feel they don't want to do that and it passes, then that's what it is. But any trustee has a right to make a comment whether or not to pay something or not pay something. If they get the majority of the vote, then it's either paid or not paid according to whatever that person is asking for. The fire hydrant, if you want to come by tomorrow, I do have a copy of the fire hydrants that are not working, so Ms. Couch, if you come up quite often, so if you do, next time you come up, ask me. I will get you that copy of the fire hydrants that are in repair. Ms. Cass, as far as your questions, as far as the money, I didn't say, I don't know where you got that from, that money was misappropriated, and we needed to have an audit because we don't have, or we changed our employees. I didn't see a problem with that. The audit is done. We're starting to get ready to start the next one as soon as we get all the paperwork in. So having an independent audit, which we call a forensic audit, is roughly 60,000 to 70,000. If the board wants to vote that kind of money out to have that done, it's up to the board. If they want to do that, they feel that there's a need for that, then well, actually they can put that and have that put in the budget and have that being done. I'm sorry that when you call Village Hall, that the line is busy. I cannot answer why. I mean, because there's a lot of things that are going on. I know here this week we've had problems, and the day is Tuesday, with our computers, but we're getting that taken care of. So right now the line is a little long because of some things you cannot do, but hopefully I was reassured today that that's going to be taken care of within the next tomorrow. And operational transfers, I tried to explain at the hearing. Operational transfers is money that's already budgeted for, but it has to come out of some area or debited from a certain area of the department, and that is operational. Those are the operations. Police, fire, public works, and administration. Administration is basically anybody that works inside the building in the front office. And Chief already told you about the furniture. And hiring new police. Hopefully the next budget we'll have a chance to, if we get some more money into the village. I'm hoping that this commerce that we're getting in now, the economic development, will generate some money that we can start looking at personnel. That being said, okay, the mayor's report. As you know, trick or treat is right around the corner. We will be having a trunk or treat this Saturday from 11. We're going to start at 11:30 or end with hopefully around 2. If the weather's permitting, we will be outside making a true trunk or treat. If the weather is not permitting, we'll be inside the community center. But what I'm asking is anyone that plans on being part of it to be here at least by 11 o'clock to set up, either inside or outside. And, you know, you can dress your vehicle up, or we'll have tables on the inside where you can dress your tables up to give candy to the kids. Also, that same evening, there's a rally or revival, not a rally, wrong choice of word. A revival that will be at the Crossroads Church on Torrance Avenue. The pastor was here last week asking, and I'm asking that those that can make it come down and be part of that revival. There'll be a numerous amount of pastors that are in the village that will be there, and I think they have a program going on, so please come down and get involved. That being said, reports from officers. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. I would like you to know that all of the ordinances have been sent to Gerald for placement on the website. He is just a little backed up conducting other IT business around the village, considering that we have new phones, we have new staff, we have new programs, new things in existence. But he has that. He has minutes through June to post as well. And he informed me today that he will be doing so. And also, on the village clerk's page, some of that has been updated as well, especially as it relates to the election. So you will find the important election dates for the November 6th election, as well as for candidates who are interested in running for our April 2nd, 2019 election. So I'm going to invite you to go to the website to see what those updates are. I will continue, as I mentioned before, to work toward updating the minutes. I will always present some of the most recent, which I did tonight, and then we'll go further back to those that are outstanding. That's why tonight you had one from July and two from October, so that you have your most recent, but we are playing catch up as well, as I had mentioned before, so I am following through with that. I'd like to also make a plea for some volunteers to assist for this year's Christmas food basket giveaway. We will not have very many meetings. However, with the partnership team from our various entities, as well as some of our neighborhood partners, we will come together to plan our Christmas food giveaway. So I would like for you to consider joining us in that meeting as well. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Village Engineer, Mr. Jim Zarni.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the 223rd and Cornell Avenue project, paving is completed and all sodding has been finished. Therefore, the project is nearing its end. Also, the board has a resolution before you regarding the Community Development Block Grant Program. This resolution will authorize the village to enter into an agreement with Cook County, whereby the village will receive $200,000 in funding to be utilized for the reconstruction of 221st Street from Sauk Trail to Orion Avenue. Once the agreement is approved by the county, we can start the time project so it can be ready for spring construction. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Any questions? Well, comment. When we last, I guess the last time we were here, we were discussing discussing the 221st Street project, and that we applied for the block grant during that time, and it was denied because of it wasn't eligible for federal funds. Okay. Now we come back at this time, and we're going to reapply for the same area, which is of concern to me because we didn't get it last time. You know, what makes you think you're going to get it this time? Now, I understand that they say it's because of low to moderate income, but the demographics in the area has not changed in the last 2 years. So my concern is that we're applying for these areas that we have already applied for. They told us we weren't eligible for 221st. And now we come back again and we're going to apply for it again. So my question is to you, what's changed and that we're going to apply for 221st now when we couldn't do it like maybe a year ago or something because it was actually denied then. So I want to know what's the difference happening. And then another comment I want to make is that the grant that's in process now for 2018 is going to be $75 MFT funds to be included. My question to you is that, if I'm not mistaken, we only have $154,000 worth of MFT funds left. My question is, why are we using half of the money to do 221st Street, or are we going to do half of it? Well, it says $275,000 in that particular grant, but why is it so much for that particular area when, what should I say, in that area before, we are going to put in all that money to resurface the area when we should be looking at the underlying cause of the water main breaks in that area. There's a whole bunch of things that's going on that I would like to talk to you about, but I can't get the information from you. I'll talk to you right here. But my main question is, why, since we voted for 221st and was denied, why are we coming back for the same grant? And the same demographics, same thing, and, how's that, working for?
So the village has been granted the $200,000 for 221st already. All the village has to do tonight is approve the agreement, and the village will receive the funding.
So, and $75,000 is coming from MFT? Why are we using so much of that money for MFT?
This is the way the village has operated for the past 15 years. We always use a combination of CDBG and MFT funding to fund the CDBG projects. We always combine it with MFT funding to do whatever additional roads we can do that are in addition to the funding that we receive from Cook County. So it's a bargain to be able to do that much roadway resurfacing with so little funding. Village receives somewhere on the order of $230,000 per year in MFT funding. It comes in mostly on a monthly basis, so it's a continuous stream of income. So whether we've got a low balance or high balance in the MFT account, we're always getting more funds. So it eventually comes in, and we are very careful in making sure that we don't overspend, so that we always have enough money in that account to do whatever the program is for a given year.
So we're gonna get additional funds for MFT? That's a monthly thing, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So I hear you say we guaranteed is already, the money for 221st is already guaranteed?
Yeah.
Okay, and we're gonna get to 200,000. All right, then.
Trustee Brewer, just so you know, we have about 180,000 in MFT funds.
Well, according to what I got, we got 154.
Any other questions? Treasurer's report. Mr. Anthony Finch.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustee. We go over the collector report for the revenue received as of the month of July. In property taxes, the village received $1,387,330.03. In other taxes, $218,311.81. For license and permits, $20,947. For fees and services, $288,933.33. In grants, $14,031.95. There's an interfund transfer of $819,608.65. And in other miscellaneous income, a total of $1,477,462.84, for a total revenue for the month of July of $4,226,685.81. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, just want to point out that the report says June, but this really is July.
Correct.
July 2018.
Yes.
Oh, you mean the heading?
The heading, yes.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Did I hear you mention the interfund transfer of how much?
$819,608.
And what is that from?
From TIF 2 and TIF 3.
From 2 and 3. So we made a transfer from TIF 2 to 3?
No, from TIF 2, I don't know right now the detail where the transfer to, but from TIF 2 for $244,000,
244,000.
$903.71, and TIF 3 was $574,704.94.
94 cents. Oh, from TIF 3. And you don't know where the money went? You know what was transferred to?
This time, because it's my first time doing this report, but next time I'll have more detail and ask more questions.
Okay, well, who authorized the transfers?
Well, this is before I got here, so I cannot tell you that answer. I was just giving you the data.
Oh, okay. So we don't, okay.
But I will have that in the next meeting.
Okay, great, thank you.
Trustee Brewer, it's on page 5. It gives you the breakdown of the transfers by line item there. by department rather, on page 5.
That's not the question. I asked who authorized the transfer.
I understand that, but you asked where did the money come from? You asked
Oh,
where,
I got an answer to that. I want to know who authorized the transfers.
understood.
Who authorized? Who authorized the transfers?
The previous finance director input those transactions.
It's from the previous, can you,
I can tell you where they're going. It's going from TIF 2 and TIF 3 to the debt service fund to pay the bonds. These are standard transactions. They're in the budget, but the previous finance director is the one who authorized those and actually enacted those.
okay, so can we have some paperwork to show that $818,608 was transferred? I mean, because every time I ask for something, I never get it. I like to know who authorized the transfer of the funds, because apparently trustees didn't know.
It's a normal process to pay bonds. So it's part of the budget. When the budget is approved, the appropriation budget is approved, you have to live up to your obligations to pay those bonds.
Well, we understand that, so we're
Okay.
just trying to find out that, who authorized and when they're supposed to be authorized. So you saying the previous finance director did?
Yeah, this occurred in July.
So somebody had to prove it from him? He had it.
He did.
He did? Mohan did?
Yes. He does this every month. He did it every month when he was here.
Mohan's not authorized to transfer money?
As part of the appropriation budget, he was authorized, I'm sure he felt he was authorized to pay our bond payments.
Finance, report from the Department of Finance Administration, and Director.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees. Let me start my report by letting you know about the problems we've been experiencing with the civic system and the IT servers that the civic system is on. 3 weeks ago, one of our computers at the front desk started to malfunction and would now allow us to take payments at the front desk. We called our IT support and he worked with Civic to address the issue. Then 2 weekends ago, the server crashed and we did not have a system at all on that Monday. Since the Civic system, since the servers crashed, we have been having problems daily with one or both of our computers at the front desk where we take payments. Most recently, we were down this Monday for the better part of the day, and today again we were down with one of the computers. Our IT support has been working sometimes round the clock to solve these issues. While they have been working to resolve the issues, we have resorted to taking payments manually and working overtime to catch up with the work. It is believed that the power outages that we experienced earlier this month caused the server to fail, and then that corrupted the databases. The equipment is old, and therefore it has not been easy for our IT support to get everything working properly again, but he is working tirelessly to do this. The second thing I wanted to report on is that we have completed the quarterly COPS hire grant reporting. In addition to that, we've started the process of renewing our system for award management registration, otherwise known as SAM. It takes approximately 45 days to complete this process, and it needs to be done before December 21st, as that's the date that our current registration expires. This is critical to complete because without it, we would not be eligible for federal grants. We also filed an extension to file our full year 2018 annual report with the state controller. The report is due 180 days after our fiscal year end, and that's on October 27th. The extension is for 60 days. As you're aware, the audited financials were delayed by the police and the fire pension funds. The person that the pension fund boards originally hired to complete their required actuarial valuations had his license suspended, and the auditors could not accept an actuarial report from someone who was not licensed.
They then hired someone else to complete these reports, and these reports were completed and turned in over to the auditors effective last week. Miller Cooper, who is our auditor, is now reviewing them and incorporating them into the village's financials. Miller Cooper, it needs a little bit of time to do their required steps with this information. They do have everything else that they need to complete their audit, and they have had it since September. The last piece was the actuarial reports. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
I got a question. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, Ms. Sutton, you indicated that funds were transferred. Do you know what date that was when that happened?
July,
July what?
sometime in July.
Okay, so can I have some documentation showing it was July and the amount that was transferred on those 2 particular days?
I will give you the July report that shows that he transferred that amount of money.
Okay, and another thing I want to ask you is that I have been asking for reports that show the disbursement of all the water fund, in the water fund from May of 2018 to the present. It has a detailed ledger that shows what was taken out, what was put in, and stuff like that. So I've been asking for that report, and I was wondering, do you have any idea when I get that? And also, with the water fund, I need one for the sewer, the utility bills, and also the garbage. And I've been asking for those reports for the last 2 months, and I haven't been able to get them. So can you tell me when those will be available?
I believe that that's available now. So there is one account called the Water Fund account that is at First Midwest, and then there's an e-pay water account that's at First Midwest, and that's a combined water sewer account for both of those. So you've got a list, or you will have a listing very shortly of all the disbursements and anything that's been added to and from that account.
That's the bank statement.
Yes.
What I'm looking for is the detailed ledger, and you usually get that report. The bank statements are different from the detailed ledger. So I would like a copy of that shows anytime something's taken in and out of there, you have to do that only on a report. And again, that's not a bank statement that I got that was good, but that's not what I need. I want to know the detail of what's going on with the water, the sewer, utilities, etc.
I have given you the financial statement in the past, and you said you wanted more detail, so that's why I gave you the bank statement that shows the exact disbursements on what day. So if you want the statements, that's available. If you want the bank statements, that was what took a little bit of time to be able to pull all that information together.
I don't want the bank statements. All I want is the detailed ledger that has the emphasis on what happened each day.
I will give you the financial statements then.
Okay.
Before you hit anyway, so I'm wow.
I'm hoping that you might get what was so funny about that.
Because you FOIA something every day.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know why
Because I
you
can't
think
get
you don't get
information.
answers. You do get answers.
Okay. Apparently not.
Anyone have any other questions for Ms. Sutton? And I'm hoping, Ms. Sutton, that you give her reports when you do, but take into consideration, because you never had a chance to stand around and wait around, that you're one of the people that is being asked not to be paid. Fire department.
That's
Fire
right.
department, Captain Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the period from October 5th through October 25th, the fire department responded to 33 calls for service. We had 12 fire alarms, 3 vehicle accidents, 7 ambulance assists, 2 auto aids to our neighbors, 3 CO alarms, 3 wires down, 1 lockout, and 1 car fire. Fire Prevention Week was a success. Fire prevention personnel visited all the schools, and literature was distributed to the students. Open house at the station was well received. We showcased all the vehicles and the tools. Residents were impressed with the amount of knowledge our fire personnel had concerning safety. Spokespersons were distributed. And the fire department will participate in the Halloween parade this coming Saturday. That concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Police Department Chief Robert Kowalski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, trustees.
For the past 2 weeks, we responded to 438 calls for service with 6 arrests. Case of interest, on October 8th, officers were dispatched at 21900 block of Jeffrey, where they met with the complainant who advised he was a victim of an armed robbery. Victim was called by a friend to come and hang out and was given an address to arrive at in Sauk Village. When the victim left his residence in Indiana, he set his GPS and arrived at the location provided to him, where 2 unknown individuals came up to his car, displayed a gun, and demanded he turn over his car keys and cell phone. After turning over his keys and phone, the offenders fled the area, and the victim ran to Popeyes, where he called the police to report the robbery. The matter was turned over to our investigations, who did a follow-up, only to find that the victim had come to Sauk Village to sell marijuana. The offenders were the individuals who told the victim they wanted to buy the marijuana, only to rob him of his drugs. Believe it or not, he admitted to this. When he came to the village and talked to the investigators, this matter was closed. On October 10th, officers took a report of a vehicular carjacking which occurred on Peach Street, but not until the victims left Sauk Village and returned to their residence in Chicago Heights. Carjacking allegedly took place on Peach Street several hours prior to the report, but within an hour of the carjacking, there was a drive-by shooting in Fort Heights. The vehicle taken to Sauk Village was described as the vehicle involved with the shooting. There's no further information, and our detectives are working the carjacking investigation at this time. DEA National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day is this Saturday, October 27th. The containers will be in the police department lobby between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. for your drug drop-off. Also, Halloween is Wednesday, October 31st, and the hours for trick-or-treating in the village will be from 4 to 7 p.m. Also, the police department will again participate in the Sauk Village Halloween trunk and treat, because it's always a pleasure and honor to participate in community events such as this. I hope to see everyone there. CalCom. The issue of the CalCom contract came up at a previous meeting, and we are now on a year-to-year contract basis with the centralized dispatch center. I have looked into other dispatch services and discussed the possibilities with the mayor and the fire chief. We all believe at this time CalCom is our best option. We will continue to monitor the service and make necessary changes as they come up. Thank you, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Emergency Management Agency, Director Alan Maverick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. From the time of October 8th to the 21st of October, EMA responded to 19 calls. We had 1 pole with wires on fire, arcing, 4 auto accidents, 7 fire alarms, 3 CO alarms, 1 motorist assist, 1 car fire, 1 smoke investigation, and 1 motor investigation. As the Chief of Police has mentioned too, Halloween is in 8 days. Please drive safely on Halloween day for our little trick-or-treaters. Watch out so they don't run out between cars. And that concludes my report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Public Works, Director Kevin Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few items here. I've been reported at several meetings before. We've had some leaks in town due to some of the emergencies that came about during some of the road projects and some of the other after effects of some storms. We were behind on these digs. Currently, we have 2 that are still outstanding of the 7 that we had originally. One is at 217-24 Peterson, and the other one is at 1731 to 23rd Place. Both of these jobs will be started after an emergency repair that had started at a water main break at 221688 Yates. We had to have an emergency valve installed on 22514 Navajo. This is an easy valve done under pressure, so we didn't have to shut the main down. But once we get back to this job, we have the parts on order right now. It's roughly 20 feet of main, the T, and a new valve that will go in at this intersection. We're a resident that lives at that address. We're sorry it's taking so long, but some of the other jobs pushed us away for a little bit. Staff is still working, still had one final project on 223rd Street before the surface went down. We were called roughly at 2123 to 23rd Street. Looks like a heavy truck had driven in an area where we had a water main break repair over there, really quickly putting the material back in there. It looked like they pushed some of the mud under the roadway. We had dug out the section roughly 6 by 12, found out that it was just a mud layer between the asphalt, and we repaired that. That was not part of the project, so we did have to incur that cost. Everything went well after that. We're still working on small jobs around the village hall. As we get further into fall, we will be working on some of the cleaning jobs and some of the jobs at the police department, which is some updates. Grass cutting continues in the village. We have one final cut coming after the leaf drop, roughly around 3 more weeks right here. We'll have some leaves coming down, and once that is done, we will have our final cut in town, cleaning up. Storm branches from the last storm event all had to be out 3 weeks ago. We're just about completed on the north side. We're in the back section right now, so pretty much from Jeffrey Avenue, from 217th all the way to Constance is the last section there. And as a reminder, this was only for storm damage, so if residents have piles up at their house and they decided to cut and add branches to the piles or added bushes, some of those did not get picked up, and some of those also had debris on them, fence material, garbage, steel, and we did not pick those up either. Just a reminder, we're in our wet season again. The LEAF program, there's 2 things here. The LEAF program has not started yet. Residents are already cutting and placing their leaf debris in the roadway. This is going to cause flooding. This is going to cause overtime. It's going to cause a waste of money. So we're asking that you do not put it out until the posted dates, which is next. Leaf pickup begins on 11/12. All residents can start putting the leaves in the roadway by 11/2. That's roughly a week prior to the pickup. The first pickup is usually a lighter pickup to the end of the second pickup. We'll have a gap week in between there, and the final week will be towards the end of the month and the beginning of December to the final pickup. And if they do put the leaves out in the street and it's causing obstruction, they may be ticketed for that. Several other concrete jobs this year we're trying to get a hold of and finish up. 224-34 Yates, 22444 Yates, 221-49 Shirley. These jobs will start tomorrow. It's basically 79 linear feet of curb and roughly 45 square feet of sidewalk. After those jobs are completed, we will be behind those to landscape those areas up. Landscape jobs that were completed recently, we've had some water main breaks from last year that we caught up with finally. 2116, 2100, 223rd Street. This was a driveway apron and a large hole in the street we had in the winter of last year. We had a winter event and we had a nice storm event, so we had a lot of rain and a lot of meltdown at one time, which caused a break. And after this event is done, after our chipping is done, which is going to be finished by, I think, Thursday, we'll be back out patching potholes for the end of the season. Well 3, we have an ongoing issue at well 3 right now. The air stripper went offline due to some fuses that burned out. We thought initially it was due to the brownout, power outages, the failure of some power in the lines. It ended up burning up the VFD, which is the drive that controls the speed control of the motors for the air strippers. So we had that ordered and that's been replaced. And all we're waiting on right now is a quote for the sensors for the sump. Those should be in today. We'll have some information on that tomorrow. And hopefully by the end of the week we'll have that air stripper back online. The final thing is streetlights. I know there's a lot of streetlights in town. There's not as many out as you would assume. 49 lights is not a lot when you consider how many we have. These are all wire issues due to the old wire in the ground. The new lights, they run off a little different voltage and a little bit of different tolerances. These lights are very sensitive to any issues with power. The wire in the ground is in the north side and the south side. It's a 2-wire system, and it's got a lot of damage on the wire, so we lose a lot of voltage. And once you do that, the lights will not strike. And once they don't strike, after so many times, they just won't strike for the night. Tomorrow, they strike at the first hit, and it stays lit. These lights, we are going to each one of these locations at this time, just so we know they're on, because they are complaints, and we are putting shorting caps on those, so those will keep the lights on at all times, 24 hours. We also had it's been since last year we had a pole down, and then we recently had a pole hit. One was 1721, and the other one was 22351. One was 223rd place, the other one was Cornell. So this is in the section we just did the contactor and replaced. Both of those poles were ordered and both of those poles are put up. We still have to do connections on the wiring and put the light head on those locations. But we do have 2 lights that are continually going off and on in that section. This should solve those problems in that section. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Mr. Welker, I have a couple of comments. In response to a FOIA request, the request said you had 47 street lights out. Okay. This was like last week when I got this. And also, it has 83 fire hydrants that's operated, that's not working, I'm sorry. It's 83 of it, that's as of 4/20/2018. And back in March, it said we had a 32% water loss. So I was wondering, is there any way I can get an update? Maybe I could talk to Jim about that, of how much water loss we have right now. And the last thing I want to say, and it's all this public notice and notice I got from a FOIA request, that we have had 30 water main breaks since January. This is only a 4-mile town, 4 miles long. 30 is a little excessive. We need to start doing something about infrastructure repair here. 30 is far too much for us to be having, and it's going to only cost us more and more money as if we don't get a handle on those things. So that's the information I got from, I do believe you signed it last week, so you might want to talk to whoever about this 30 water main breaks, and also I would like to know how much water loss we're getting now.
Well, the water main breaks, if you read the list, it's not all water main breaks. Some of those are repairs, some of those are digs. For some of the road work we did on 223rd Street, started off as a leak and ended up being a break the next day off the pipe. So something we've done, disturbing the area, sometimes we cause those. But those repairs are not all water main breaks. And in the past, we had an average of 60 or 70 per year. And the last probably 4 years, they dropped down to I think an average of about 15 a year. So this was an unusual condition that we had in this, and I would think that half of those will be gone at 223rd Street project. We didn't start off and have all these on and off of water. We caused some of those by shutting the water off and turning it back on. Cause an air bubble in the system, creates a water hammer. It will find the weakest point. So normally you wouldn't have that as a break if we didn't have that going on. So some of those might just been from what we were doing in there.
Well, you have it listed here as 30 water main breaks, so.
They're on the sheet, but
And I
each had
think
it.
you got one on there is being repaired, so.
All of them are repaired.
Right, yeah, so that might be a question. Also, the water loss was January last time I got an update, so I would like to know how much water loss we have now. Because it seems like if we did all these breaks and digs and all that sort of stuff, we should be losing more water than we were before. So, is that something we could find out?
That's not a simple calculation, so there's going to be a little involved in the information.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you. Economic Development, Director, Mr. Joseph Wiswater.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no report tonight. However, I would like for discussion on the next committee of the whole agenda, the discussion and review of the intergovernmental agreement with Cook County for the Invest in Cook, as well as a request for qualifications for the same project. So we'll be discussing those at our next committee of the whole meeting. And that's all I have.
So you want the discussion for the Invest in Cook grant?
Yes, and I'll have the material for the village clerk on Thursday for distribution in the trustees' packets.
Thank you. Reports of Trustees Standing Committee, comments, Public Service Committee, Trustee Bernice Brewer.
Mr. Mayor, regards to Public Service Committee, I'm trying to find out information about how many pipe has been changed or repaired since May of 2017, and also how much is in need of repair since 2017. So that's something I think we need to get from our engineer, and I would like that information on the number of feet of pipe that has been repaired, and also I would like to know the number of oil orders that have been issued since May of this year. That's the end of that report.
Did you put that in writing? Was that somebody? Not a secretary.
Enough is enough.
And you have that in writing so we can get that?
I'll send you
Oh, you asking Jim? You said you wanted to know. That's what I'm asking. You put that in writing?
Oh, I mean, I put an email to them and you too.
Okay.
Everybody get something we need to know. The comments I have is that indicating or you voiced your concerns. Well, my concern is this. We wouldn't have to do it if there was some kind of transparency here. It seems like to me, all we should do, since we trustees, is to ask for something related to financial issues. Every time you go in there and talk to Suffolk, she gives us a runaround. We can't get anything from you. So it seems like to me that this stuff should be readily available for trustees. That's what we're here for, to watch the money. So, and another thing that we're still haven't gotten information about is written explanation of operational transfers. Everybody explaining them to we like something in writing. We can't get it from you for some reason. And the third thing about it is that we have been, last week we got copies of the work statement that involves payments for Dr. Strada. We still don't know if it's 17 or 17.5. I like some clarity on that, and also I like it in writing. You know, we don't need to keep going on over and over on this stuff. We need some clarity, put it in writing so we can go on with the next step. It's real easy. So I don't know why that's such a, and that's the end of my comment.
Did you or did you not get a statement, work statement, that was delivered to all the trustees? Did you get a copy?
I got two copies. One says 17 hours, the other says 17.5. So which is true?
I'm asking you, did you get the latest copy?
I don't know which one is.
Oh,
one
okay.
is 17 and one is 17.5, which is true. Which one is true? Which one was
approved? As I
approved?
stated before, it was 17.456 thousand. That's what I stated.
That was, okay, so can I get that in writing?
It was in writing. You got the statement. That's why I asked you, did you get that? You said you got two.
I got two.
Okay. We both had that.
And then I got a signed statement that says 17.5.
Is that all of that? Trustee? Is that it?
Yeah,
Budget and Finance Committee, Trustee Roger Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regards to budget and finance, I would like to present the board at the next committee meeting with a policy, cybersecurity, that Gerald and I and the committee have been working on. We can present something on the next committee meeting, but we will revisit it in the future, just to probably add on to it after we install the new civic system in the next few months. But then also, as a question to you, did you ever receive any follow-up on the list of demands, not demands, the wish list from department heads that you asked them for? I know Kevin was supposed to compile the list. I know that Chief Quasi said he gave him something today. What about the whole list? Did we ever get that from them?
Okay, I had a meeting last Monday, and I did reiterate to the department heads that I need, and I kind of clarified it. It was, everybody was thinking one person was supposed to do whatever. So when I get that list of things that they would like to see updated in their different departments, I will pass that on to the board to look at it, and then we'll go from there. Nothing's going to be voted on, nothing's going to be paid for, nothing's going to be done until after you guys get a chance to look at it and have any questions on it, we can go and find that out. And then quite naturally after that, the board can bring it up at the committee meeting and then board meeting to okay those expenditures. Did you say that you wanted something on the committee meeting?
Yes, so for next Tuesday, and I'll present the clerk with the documents, the cybersecurity policy that I gave the board about maybe a month ago. They wanted me to go back with Gerald, get his opinion, so I'm going to go back and present them what Gerald and I and the committee discussed.
Okay, cybersecurity policy.
Correct.
You want that on the next committee meeting?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, housing and intergovernmental relations? Nothing. Trustee Tyler's not here, Trustee Dupont is not here. Trustee Carter? Reports of committees and commissions. Mr. Farmer, I know you know how to use the mic, so could you? Thank you, sir.
Next, thank you, Mayor and Trustee. Our next meeting for the Senior Advisory Council is November 8th, and of course, all are welcome. Also, the seniors are walking still every morning, Monday through Friday, in the park behind the Village Hall. I think they might change it out, I want you to update that, but we had 7 a.m. for 1 hour. Also, Medicare sales meetings have started at the Senior Center on Monday, October 15th, and will run through December 7th. But annual enrollment period every Monday at 10:30 a.m., except for Veterans Day, which is November 12th, and every Wednesday at 12:30, except for October 31st, November 7th, and November 21st. And flyers are posted with all dates and times around the Village Hall. And in the Senior Center, please let the seniors turning 65 and that are 65 over the know. Also, we have a flyer in the back on the table. Also, game night is every first and third Friday. Please come out and invite your seniors to bid whist and other games. Also, we have our first senior luncheon that will be held on November 16th, and all seniors are invited. 50 and over, we have flyers on the table here. Lunch will be sponsored by the Eastern Stars, and we're expecting a little early Thanksgiving dinner to be featured. Again, we got the flyers in the back of the room, and that concludes it.
Thank you. Unfinished business. I'll accept a motion to approve accounts payable. I'm sorry, new business. I accept the motion to approve all accounts payable and disbursements dated 10/23/2018 for the amount of $308,508.69.
So,
This has been moved by Trustee Grant, second by Trustee Carter. Any question?
Comment, question. Mr. Mayor, I asked that this part be, I provide you with a written statement concerning this issue to be included in the October 23rd minutes. I haven't written them up yet, so the next day or two, and I'll give it to the village clerk.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Are you, maybe I didn't hear it right. Are you saying that you're going to prepare something that will be submitted at a later date that you wanted to?
Well, it concerns this
Are
particular
you saying
thing.
you wanted to be included in this?
It's when I make, talk about this right here, I want to be included in the minutes.
Oh, what you get ready to talk about?
Right, yeah.
I thought that you were going to present this in form at a later date.
Yeah, in a day or two, it's gonna take me a day, at least tomorrow, to write it up.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is if you have anything to present, now is the time to do that. We can't vote on something that you may or may not write up later. And I mean, you can't do that.
Well, you can't write
I mean,
it up.
how can somebody vote on something that you may write up and you may change? The verbiage could change or what? If you have something to present, yes, present it now. And we could go over that, but to bring something after it's been voted on and say, I want to put it in this particular minutes to be voted on now, we can't do that. We can't vote on speculation.
Okay. And then how can you put something in there where you intend on saying something that is in things change?
If you, when did you get your packet? Last week, right?
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I'm talking about what I'm trying to talk about.
If you got your packet at an earlier time, you had that time to now to write whatever it is and present it to the board. But to ask the board to vote on something that you may bring or submit later, the board can't do that.
I can add.
You can't add anything after it's been voted on.
I can add comments to it, but anyway, let's move on, since you don't have to. Excuse me, I got the floor. I haven't finished talking. I haven't finished talking. Village clerk.
Are a recording of what takes place at the meeting.
And I'm gonna write down what it takes place at the meeting.
Like I stated, we can't present something after the fact. You can't present it to the board after it's being talked about right now. If we're talking about something right now and you want to present something after the fact, it's not recorded, nor is it, no one knows what you're saying, and you can present anything. So if you want to present something to the board, you have to do it at the time that you're going to do. You can't present something after the fact, no matter.
Okay, we can go on to,
Okay, but, okay.
Mr. Mayor, I want to ask that the salary for Dr. Strawner and also the salary for Sutton be removed. These two items haven't been approved by the board. The positions that are being held are, these people are working on there, and neither one of them have been approved by the board. So I like those items removed.
Okay. Are you making a motion? No, I asked a question. It's a question. So are you trying to amend that motion? Are you trying to amend the motion on the floor? We have a motion on the floor to pass the Council bill. Are you asking to amend that?
Yeah,
motion?
I'm asking to amend the motion.
You need a second. There's no one, is anyone, any of the trustees that made the motion willing to rescind their motion and bring this up?
No.
No. All right. Is there anything else that you have for that, for Council Payable, for the motion that's on the floor?
Just want to make sure it's noted in the record.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Grant?
Yes.
Trustee Tate?
Yes.
Trustee Todd? Trustee Zupan? Trustee Brewer?
No.
Trustee Carter?
Yes.
Motion is carried. I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution directing and authorizing the submission of a sub-recipient agreement and to execute the 2018 Community Development Block Grant Program Year Agreement with Cook County, Illinois, project number 1806-020. That's the community block grant that we talked about today and the one that was discussed last week. I'll accept the motion.
So moved.
Second. It was moved by Trustee Grant, second by Trustee Carter. Any questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Todd? Trustee Zupan? Trustee Brewer? Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Trustee Carter?
Yes.
Trustee Grant?
Yes.
Trustee Tate?
Yes.
Motion is carried. I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the entity of an intergovernmental agreement with the provisions of environmental health inspectional services between Cook County Department of Health and the Village of Sauk Village. Accept the motion.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Trustee Grant, second by Trustee Carter. Any questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Zupan? Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Trustee Carter?
Yes.
Trustee Grant?
Yes.
Trustee Tate?
Yes.
Trustee Todd?
Motion is carried. I just have one thing before we adjourn. I forgot to mention it. There's not a lot of people here, but it's the Veterans Day extravaganza that we have every year. We will have one this year. There'll be a lot of information out there about it. Well, get your calendars. It will be this time on Veterans Day, that Monday, here in the Village Hall. So there'll be some things out there, there'll be some flyers out there, and there'll be some things on the, hopefully on the website out there for that. That being said, I accept the motion for adjournment. It's moved by Trustee Brewer, second by Trustee Tate. All in favor? All in favor? Motion carried.